Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, am I audible?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Is the audio clear?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining here. So we are going through a very important Upanishad. In fact, the most important Upanishad. There are 108 Upanishads. Among them, 11 are considered very important. Among those 11, Īśopaniṣad is the most important. So among all Upanishads, this is the most important Upanishad. And we are going through it verse by verse, mantra by mantra. So today we will discuss fourth mantra. And I will give a quick summary of what we have discussed so far, but so it should be easily understandable by those who are just present in today's class as well. But before we start, let us recite the Mangalacharan prayers. So let me share my screen. Okay. I hope everybody can see the screen here on the Zoom. Om Agyan Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All right. So we will start with our mantra 4 today. And before we start mantra 4, let us recite the invocation verse for Śrī Īśopaniṣad. I will share that as well. So this is, so kindly, if possible, you can all repeat. Om Purnamadaha
Om
Purnamadaha
Purnat Purnamudachyate
Purnat Purnamudachyate
Purnasya
Purnasya
Purnadaya
Purnameva Vashishyate.
Purnameva Vashishyate.
The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete.
The personality of the Godhead is perfect and complete.
And because he is completely perfect,
And because he is completely perfect,
all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world,
all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world,
are perfectly equipped as complete wholes.
are perfectly equipped as complete whole.
Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself.
Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in
Because
itself.
he is the complete whole,
Because he is the complete whole,
even though so many complete units emanate from him,
even though so many complete units emanate from him,
he remains the complete balance.
he remains the complete balance.
So we discussed this verse in full detail a few weeks back. So you can, those who are attending first time or have missed it, can go and watch the recording. And this is very, very important verse, very famous verse, and lot of revelation about the fullness and the completeness and the non-diminishability of the Supreme Lord, that the Lord doesn't diminish. Then next verse, Ishavashyam idam sarvam
Ishavashyam idam sarvam
Incha jagatyam jagat
yatkincha jagatyam jagat
tena tyaktena bhunjitha
tena tattena bhunjitha
agridah kasya svidhanam. Everything animate or inanimate
Everything animate or inanimate
that is within the universe
that is within the universe
is controlled and owned by the Lord.
is controlled and owned by the Lord.
One should therefore accept
One should therefore accept
only those things necessary for himself,
only those things necessary for himself,
which are set aside as his quota.
which are set aside as his quota.
And one should not accept other things,
And
one should not
other
accept
things,
other things,
knowing well to whom they belong.
knowing
knowing
well
well
whom they
to whom
belong.
they belong.
Very good. Thank you. So this is the first mantra of Īśopaniṣad, which describes the Ishavasya principle. And there are three main points in this verse that one should live understanding that this whole world is ultimately the property of God. We are just the caretakers. Therefore, we should use whatever has been given to us as our quota, knowing that ultimately it is God's property. We should treat it like a rental house, not as an owner. Like we keep the rental house properly and we must return it back to the landlord after we vacate. So we should live like that, and we should not encroach on other people's quota. We should remain happy in what we have been given as our quota by the Lord, knowing that the Lord is the ultimate owner. This is the Ishavasya principle. Next two verses describe what happens when we live in harmony with it. Then we are happy. And we also are mukta, free from karma bandhana. We discussed this in detail. And then the third verse, what are the consequences if we don't live in harmony with this? And then we go down into the sinful path that is known as killer of the soul, Atmahana. So there are all these points. So today we will discuss mantra 4. So before we go into the summary of Srila Prabhupada's purport, let me share the mantra. And or I hope you all, let me share it anyway. So share screen. Kindly mute yourself. Okay. Mantra 4. Okay. Okay. So the mantra goes like this. Again, I am not very expert at reciting in the meter. Okay. Let me increase the font. Okay. So I will just recite it as best as I can. Anejad ekam manaso javiyo. Yeah, no need to repeat. Let me just do it. We only repeat the first two verses. The invocation and mantra 1, Ishavashyam. Anejadekam manaso javiyo naineda deva apnuvan purvam arshat tadhavato anyan atyeti tishthat tasmin apo matarishva dadhati. So this is the verse. So let me explain a little bit what is going on here in this verse. So if you remember, we discussed that Īśopaniṣad itself. So let me stop the sharing so it doesn't distract. I should have done this first before reciting the verse. But anyway, the Īśopaniṣad is divided into several sections. So verse number 1, 2, and 3 that we discussed, Īśavāśyam verse, and then the next two verses, what happens when we live in harmony with the Īśavāśyam principle, and what happens when we do not live in harmony with it. That is one section. And that is the knowledge or the application and practice section. Now we go back into the knowledge section. So we have two verses which are in the knowledge section. So the first one was describing, the first section was describing what is the Īśavāśya principle and how we should live by it. I hope that is clear to everyone. At least for even the new people, it is clear a little bit that we must consider everything to belong to the Lord and we should just act as a caretaker, not as the owner. So that is the first section of Īśopaniṣad. Okay, one can ask that everything belongs to the Lord. Can you tell me who is the Lord? Who is that Ishvara? Īśavāsyam idam sarvam. Everything is owned by the Lord. Who is the Ishvara? So these two verses, 4 and 5, which we will cover today. Maybe we cannot cover 5. We will just cover 4. We will see how the speed goes. And we have to stop at around 7 o'clock. So we will cover maybe 4 or part of 5. It is describing who is Ishvara and how to understand Ishvara. How to get an understanding of Bhagawan or Ishvara. So that is this section 4 and 5. All right. So this verse is describing who is Ishvara and how it is not possible to understand him. In what ways can we not understand him? The next section will describe how is it possible to understand him and what should we do about it. That will be 6, 7, and 8. Okay. So 4 and 5 is going to describe who is Ishvara and how inconceivable he is. Inconceivable means how complicated it is to understand Ishvara. Ishvara is not simple. Okay? That is why there are such Shastras and such big Vedas and everything to understand Ishvara. The essence we will understand today of how to understand Ishvara. So that is what this section is talking about. So the main points of this verse are two. Okay. The first main point is that Ishvara is inconceivable. Inconceivable means impossible, unable to understand, inconceivable. Very, very, very hard. Very, very hard is actually not the right thing, because very hard means, okay, with enough hard work, you can understand. It is impossible to understand Ishvara fully. The second thing is that, therefore, we should not try to understand God by our own strength. Now, it does not, so little bit later from future verses and from Srila Prabhupada's purport, we will see that, yes, it is possible to understand Ishvara. Then the question becomes, okay, on the one hand, you are saying it is impossible to understand Ishvara. But there is a caveat. It is impossible to understand Ishvara by our strength. Okay? It is not impossible to understand Ishvara. It is impossible to understand by our strength. So then what is the way? Fine, forget our strength. We will keep our strength aside. We will forget about our strength. We will not apply our strength to understand Ishvara. Then what is the other way to understand Ishvara? So let me ask some devotees. Maybe you can raise hands or something. How can we understand Ishvara if not by our own strength? Yes, Saloni Mataji has raised hand.
Hare
Then
Krishna Prabhuji,
Gauranga Prabhu.
by the mercy of Acharyas and Guru,
By mercy of Acharyas and Guru.
like listen to their discourses or read their work.
Okay, let me ask a counter question and then I will just pose a counter question to your argument and then go to Madhav Gauranga Prabhu. How did they know? Right? Okay, we can understand by hearing or by, listening to Acharyas and Gurus. But how did they understand to begin with?
Shastras and realization, self-realization.
Let's go to Madhav Gauranga Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
The knowledge received from the disciplic succession will help us to understand the Ishvara.
All right, but it is also the same argument. Disciplic succession is the revelations made by Acharyas. Disciplic succession means our previous Acharyas. How did they understand?
The experience, the feel with the yoga.
Okay, okay.
Bhakti,
Let
when
us
we
go
do
to
the
Anjana
bhakti,
Mataji and then Niru Mataji.
Prabhuji, I think it's Lord who himself reveals to the pure devotees, and that's how the information is reached to the acharyas, and then it is passed on to the devotees and the acharyas in line.
Okay, I will no comments. Let's go to Niru Mataji.
I mean, same thing what Anjana Mataji said, that when we do the bhakti, then it is the God's grace that he reveal himself. Then we understand.
Okay, no comments. Anybody else?
By the experience of those who attained God.
By experience of those who attain God. Okay, okay. Yes, we have in the room. 1 second.
Vedas, the 4 Vedas, those are like from God, the mouth. They are being like, like translated from God to Acharyas to and so on. And also Puranas.
So the answer in the room is through Vedas and Puranas. There is a small flaw with that argument. And that is one of the points we want to cover in today's class. What is the flaw in the argument that we can know God through the Vedas and Puranas? Or in general, we can say through Shastra. Okay. So there is a little flaw. This is an interesting discussion. Why it is a little bit flawed argument. Anybody else? Medha Mataji?
Through meditation and concentration.
Okay. In the room, a child is saying through meditation. Very nice. Medha Mataji? Are you able to unmute?
Through the spiritual master, because they are realized souls.
Okay, but we just said through acharyas and disciplic succession, spiritual master, that is all in one category. All right, very nice. So yes, the two Matajis gave right answer, and I think Sri Devi Mataji also mentioned through experience and feeling. So
Through Shastras also. Yeah.
through Shastra, I said there is a little flaw in that discussion, in that one. So we will come to that. Okay. Very nice. So Anjana Mataji, Niru Mataji, and a few other devotees mentioned it correctly, that through our spiritual practices, when we do the spiritual practice, and here the spiritual practice that we are talking about is bhakti, then the Lord reveals himself to the devotee. Those who are doing sincere spiritual practice, then the Lord reveals himself. When the Lord reveals himself to the devotee, to whatever extent he reveals, to that much extent, those pure devotees are able to know the Lord. Kindly mute yourself, those who are not. I could mute everyone. 1 sec. How do we mute? कोई link दिख रहा है यहाँ पे? Anyway, it's okay. Kindly mute yourself. So And somebody has raised. So, what was I saying? Yeah, so when the Lord reveals himself, then the devotees know to the extent that the Lord has revealed. And then they pass down that information to us. So the Lord has revealed himself so many times to many, many devotees, and they have recorded all those revelations. And they have passed it down to us through the various writings, and the primary writings are the Shastras, the Vedas and the Puranas. Now the Vedas themselves are coming. Now here is the flaw in the argument. The Vedas themselves, the Shrutis, and we discussed this in our first class, are coming from the Lord himself. Okay, so that is a revelation to the devotees, agreed. But when we are reading the Vedas or when we are reading the Shastra, what we are getting is a theoretical understanding. The question was, how do we get a real understanding of God? There is a difference between theoretical understanding and actual understanding. Like, so knowing God is like swimming or bicycling. You cannot read a book and learn to bicycle. You can read as thick a book as you want. You can read pages and pages. But unless you get on the bicycle, or learning a language, you can learn ABCD, everything. You can know all the grammar, but if you don't speak the language, then it is not possible to learn the language. And if you don't know the theory, it is very easy to learn the language without theory. We have all done that. When we were children, children can speak all kinds of small words. They can speak almost sentences, and they have not even learned one letter ABCD. Just by practice, they have learned, and by association of others who know it, by parents or whoever, friends, they can speak. So yes, definitely the Vedas, the Shastras tell us about God. But if one just reads them without practicing what is written there, then the understanding will not come. Then it will remain a theoretical understanding, and that means understanding by our strength. You are trying to read the Vedas, you're not trying to do practice. And the practice is bhakti, and bhakti is not by our strength. Bhakti means taking sharan of Bhagawan. There is no our strength in bhakti. Bhakti is all about taking sharan of the Lord, doing very simple practices of bhakti, which we will discuss today. But the remaining part is all the Lord's mercy. Then he reveals. A very nice example often given by Srila Prabhupada is like a big father. He is the owner of a big factory which is producing some big complicated machines. Small child is asking, oh, how can you be the owner of this big factory? How it is producing all these complicated products? He cannot understand. A small child cannot understand. But father says, okay, tomorrow I will take you to the factory. I will explain you. Then he takes the child to the big factory. He tells him some things. See, here is this part of the factory, this part of the factory. Child can understand something only because the father reveals it to the child. Otherwise, child can keep doing his own speculation. There is maybe a fairy inside the factory. The fairy came, or the ghost came, or whatever. There is some genie inside the factory, he can come up with all kinds of various ideas of how the factory is working. But the real idea will come when the owner of the factory takes you inside the factory and shows you some things. Without the owner's permission, you cannot go inside the factory. And you can stand outside and keep coming up with your own speculation. Maybe it is like this, maybe it is like that, maybe it is like that. Okay? And all of those are not going to tell you what is actually inside. All right? So when Bhagawan reveals himself, and Bhagawan doesn't reveal to any Tom, Dick, and Harry. You cannot put a gun on Bhagawan's head and say, reveal yourself, tell me. Okay? You cannot do that. only you can request Bhagawan, and Bhagawan will grant the request only to his bhakta. So through bhakti, we can request God, please tell me something about yourself, and God will happily tell about whatever we want to know. So that is the essence here. So this verse is saying, Anejad ekam manaso javiyo. So the Bhagavan, so we can see here how hard it is to understand Bhagavan, and this verse is giving what is known as the achintya, bheda, abheda tattva, which basically means you cannot understand God. The achintya, bheda, abheda tattva means it is impossible to know God, which means achintya. Achintya means inconceivable, bheda and abheda. How he is simultaneously, bheda means different, and abheda means same. Okay, bhedbhav we say. Bhedbhav means difference, you and me. That is bheda, difference, and abheda means oneness, no difference. So the Lord is simultaneously different and non-different from who? From us. And we will explain how he is different and non-different. And this is the essence. So how can he be different and non-different? So this verse is hinting at that. So we will see this. So anejad ekam manaso javiyo. So what he is saying, what is it saying now? That Bhagavan is anejad. Anejad means he's fixed. He's at one location. Manaso javiyo, but he is faster than the man. Man travels very fast, correct? It is said the mind travels faster than the wind, isn't it? Mind travels very fast. But Bhagavan is more faster than the mind. Are you following? Which means Bhagavan is, but at the same time he is fixed. Wait, so how is he fixed and so fast? Okay, now that is your speculation. So I am saying, or Shastra is saying, Bhagavan is fixed and he is very fast. Then we'll say, how can we explain that? We use our intelligence and try to come up with an explanation. That is called speculation. All right. So that is first point, that he is fixed and he is very fast. And then Nainat Deva Apnuvan Purvam Arshat. So what it means is that this Lord, Na Enat, this Lord cannot, Enat means this Lord, Deva Apnuvan, he cannot be caught. Apnuvan means caught by the Devas, Devatas. So even the Devatas cannot catch him. Or Purvan, Purvan means they cannot surpass him. Purvan means first. Purva means who reaches first. So if there's a race between Bhagavan and Devas, the Devas will never win. He's so fast. So even the Devatas who are Arshat, Arshat means they move very fast. The Devatas also move very fast. Even they cannot catch Bhagavan. So how can we catch Bhagavan? Not possible. All right. So we cannot catch Bhagavan. Bhagavan is very fast, but at the same time he is fixed. And what is said in the third line, Tad dhavato anyan atyeti tishtat. Again, the same concept is being described. Tat, that Bhagavan surpasses atyeti, others, anyan, who are running, dhavato. So those who are running very fast, the Lord surpasses them. But he is at the same time sitting stationary, tishtat. So he can defeat anybody in a race, even though he is sitting at one place. So basically, it's a paradox. And this is the inconceivability of the Lord. And this Lord, and why the Devas cannot understand him or cannot surpass him? Tasmin apo matarishva dadhati. So these people, these devatas who are the various controllers of the various facilities, Matarishwa Dadhati means those who supply the various facilities like rain and wind and all the devatas supply all these facilities. They are tasmin, they are within the Lord. Tad asmin means tasmin, they are within the Lord. We have studied this from 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita in the universal form. Arjuna sees all the devatas. So all the devatas are within the Lord. So those who are within the Lord cannot understand the whole Lord. If you are inside this house, can you know whether this house is painted red or blue outside? No. You can only see this room. You cannot see the whole house if you are inside. So the devatas are inside the Lord. Everybody is inside. We are also inside the Lord. Remember when Lord Krishna opened the mouth, Mother Yashoda saw the whole universe, including herself. So if we are all inside the Lord, how can we know the Lord? We cannot know the Lord. So basically, so let's read the translation by Srila Prabhupada. I'll share the screen. Although fixed in his abode, the personality of Godhead is swifter than the mind and can overcome all others running. Okay, so the Lord is swifter than the mind and he can surpass anybody. He can win the race against anyone. The powerful demigods, the devatas, cannot approach him. Although in one place, he controls those who supply the air and rain. So he is in one place, and the devatas who can run very fast, they also cannot catch him. Those who supply the air and rain means the devatas. They cannot catch Bhagawan. He surpasses all in excellence. Okay. So the essence of this is that Bhagawan is sitting or stationary or fixed and he is moving. How is that possible? They are two opposites. They are called antonyms or opposite words. Okay. So I can say either you are bald or you have hair. Let us say. Can anybody be bald or have hair at the... They are opposites, right? So how is it possible that you are two things at the same time? This is the inconceivability of Bhagawan. So in the Bhagavad Gita also, we have seen this inconceivability of Bhagavan. This is a very important part. And so today's lecture is again based on knowledge. Remember the Īśopaniṣad will toggle between knowledge and application. Knowledge, application. So Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam was knowledge. Who is Bhagavan? He is Purna. Then the next verse was application oriented. Ishavashyam, how we should live in harmony with the Lord. Now we are back to the knowledge part. So a little bit complicated, like Ishavashyam was complicated. That the Lord is complete whole. Even if you take out portions, he still remains the whole. It was a little complicated and we went through that understanding. Similarly, this one is a complicated understanding because Bhagavan is complicated to understand. He's paradoxical. So in the Bhagavad Gita also, and again, it's important to refer to Bhagavad Gita. So anybody remembers which portion of Bhagavad Gita talks about the achintya, bheda, abheda, or the inconceivability of Bhagavan?
I think chapter 11.
Okay.
Chapter 11.
11, where? You have to tell the verse also. Chapter 11 has 55 verses.
Oh.
Yes, Surya Narayan Prabhu, you have raised your hand to answer this question, or you had a separate question?
No, for some other thing, your right hand may hit the power cord, where under tension it may fall. Your right side power cord is there.
No, this is HDMI.
It is hitting, your hand is hitting it.
So?
Where under tension it may fall anytime.
No, don't worry. It's good.
Okay. Sorry.
So in Bhagavad Gita, the section that has the direct reference to achintya, bheda, abheda is in chapter 9, verse numbers 4 and 5. So this is very important to understand, and you will see here another very direct contradiction. Like we saw here in this Ishvara or this Īśopaniṣad verse, he is fixed, yet he is moving fast. It is a contradiction, isn't it? Here also he will say, and we will not do the whole verse, we will go quickly because we have many important points to cover. Bhagavan says, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matsthani sarva bhutani na chaham teshu avasthitaha. So this verse, kindly mute yourself, somebody. I don't know who it is. So Bhagavan says here, in this verse itself, there is a contradiction, but I will show you a more direct contradiction in the next verse. So here Bhagavan is saying, please pay attention, Matsthani Sarva Bhutani. Okay, what that means is that Matsthani Sarva Bhutani, in me, Matsthani, in me, Sarva Bhutani. Everybody is in me, which we just discussed, like Mother Yashoda, when she saw Krishna's mouth, everything was in his mouth. So Matsthani Sarva Bhutani. Remember that. Next verse. What is the first line? Nacha Matsthani Bhutani. He's immediately saying no to the same thing he just said yes to. Nacha Matsthani Bhutani, and then he says, Pashyame Yogam Ishvaram. See my yoga Ishvaram. See my, contradiction, my mystic potency. This is my yoga Ishvaram, my such a huge yoga about me. You cannot understand me. Okay. So here we see direct contradiction. First he says, Matsthani Sarva Bhutani, and then Nacha Matsthani Bhutani. How is it possible? So how do we resolve this contradiction? The way to resolve this contradiction is by bhakti. We can never fully know Bhagawan. Never fully know Bhagawan. We can know Bhagawan only to the extent he reveals himself to us. Now he has revealed himself in great detail in the Shastras and the Vedas. But who can say that I am a full expert on Vedas? Can anybody say that? You may be an expert on some part of the Vedas, but nobody can. Some very great acharyas are full experts on the Vedas, yes. But common people can only understand part of Bhagavan. Okay? As much as they can, the Lord reveals to them either directly or through his devotees, through the acharyas. But real experience happens when one practices bhakti. So there is another very important verse in chapter 18, 55th verse, which shows that only by bhakti, Krishna says. This is a very important verse, 55. Where Bhagavan Krishna says, Bhaktya mam abhijananti. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Janati, jananta, to know. Who can know Bhagavan? Bhaktya. Through bhakti, a bhakta mam abhijanati. Through bhakti, one can know me. Yavan yascha asmi tattvataha. As I am in essence. So in essence, if one wants to know, not all the details, just the essence, one can know through bhakti. Even in Bhagavad Gita also, in chapter 10, verse number 18 or 19, when Arjuna says, tell me all your vibhutis. What is Krishna's response? Anybody remembers? Verse number 19 or 20.
I think he talks about various rivers and all those things.
That comes little bit later. So he says here, Mataji, can you read this translation, Niru Mataji?
Yes. the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, yes, I will tell you my splendor, but only those which are prominent, O Arjun, for my opulence is limitless.
So just before this, Arjun had asked Bhagavan Krishna, tell me all your opulences. One said, wait a minute. How can I tell you all my opulences? You are a small child, like a father. Child can say, tell me, show me your whole factory. Father will say, I cannot show you the whole. I can show you, but you cannot understand. You are a child. Let me show you the important parts of the factory. So same thing Bhagavan is saying. I will tell you of my vibhutis, but only which are prominent. Pradhan, there is a word here. Pradhanyataha. The main ones I can tell you, because Bhagavan says, na asti anta vistarasya me. Vistar, you understand? Vistar means details. Na anta asya. Na anta asya means there is no end to my details. Then I will keep telling you, not only the battle will be over, Mahabharat war, but even your life will be finished. We are so limited that our brain is small, our lifetime is small. We can keep trying to understand God, the understanding will not finish. Our life will finish, but the understanding will not finish. But essence we can understand. All right? Clear? And that essence is good enough to go back to Vaikuntha. No problem. Okay? You don't need to know all the details. Just the essence. It is possible to go to Vaikuntha. So our acharyas give, or not acharyas, some senior devotees have given this very beautiful example. Okay? Has anybody here in this audience gone to jail? Huh? Prabhuji, kabhi aap jail mein? You can tell honestly. Okay, so nobody has gone to jail, correct? Which means you are living a lawful life, legal, lawful, correct? Who goes to jail? Those who do something illegal, correct? So which means you are leading a legal life, isn't it? Have you read all the law books, every single law book of America? We are sitting here in America. Have you read every single law book to know what is legal, what is illegal? And then you are saying, okay, I will be legal. Did you do that? Then how is it possible for you to lead a legal life if you don't know the entirety of the law? How is it possible?
Know the prominent ones, basically.
Yeah, you know the main parts, right? And then you can easily lead. Even the Supreme Court justices, the big lawyers, they also don't know the whole law. They are also specialized in certain areas. Through their long career, somebody is an expert in criminal law, somebody is expert in corporate law, somebody is expert in immigration law, somebody is expert in, some other type of law, marriage laws, divorce, whatever, civil laws. Are you following? There is no person on this planet who knows the entire laws of even one country, let alone knowing the laws of nature. But still, by knowing the essence of the laws, if we can lead a legal life, it means that it is possible to be a perfect devotee without knowing all the details of Bhagavan. Just like Bhagavan says to Arjuna, is Arjuna a perfect devotee? Yes. But when he asks Bhagavan, tell me all the details, Bhagavan says, sorry, I cannot. So knowing all the details of Bhagavan is not a requirement, is not a prerequisite to become a perfect devotee. All right? Just by knowing the essence, by becoming a devotee, you can know the essence of Bhagavan, and that is enough. And the devotee relishes that. Like Arjun was relishing the Bhagavad Gita. All right? Okay. So our interest and our cooperation in bhakti is very important. We must take interest. Another important point is, so now we are going into the solution space, how to understand Bhagawan, because Bhagawan is so paradoxical. He is so complicated. How to understand Bhagawan? Through bhakti is the answer, but through bhakti, which is where you take interest. One very, very important point is that in your process of bhakti, the Guru or even Krishna will not come and like force it in your mouth. What is said, like you can take a horse to the water, but you cannot make it drink. Same thing is true. Guru can come and give us the knowledge. Krishna can also come and give the knowledge. He tried to give knowledge to so many people. Not everybody took it. Very classical example, Duryodhan is a demoniac person. But even Dhritarashtra, who was a little bit less demoniac, he was just profusely attached. Still, when even Bhagavan Krishna sent his messengers, Akrura, Vidura, so many, he could not understand. So our cooperation, our interest, our bhakti is in our hands. Nobody else will come and make you a bhakta. Only you. They can help, they can provide the resources, but they cannot make you. Okay. Let me see what other points are there. So then, before we quickly kind of review Srila Prabhupada's purport, what is bhakti? If one asks, what is bhakti? How do I do bhakti? So a very, very nice reference point of bhakti. First, come to the mode of goodness. Be a good person. You cannot be a evil person and do bhakti. Evilness and bhakti do not go together. Being a good person doesn't mean you are a bhakta, but it is a necessary prerequisite. There are so many good people, but they may not be bhakta of Bhagavan. All right. So bhakta has to be a good person, but a good person is not necessarily a bhakta. Our Shastras and Srila Prabhupada has emphasized this so much. There are 4 basic things of being a good person, just very, very basic things of being a good person. 4. The 4 regulative principles. No meat eating, no intoxication, wine, beer, whiskey, vodka, whatever. No gambling, including any day trading in stock market, etc., etc. Any short term. You can invest in 401k long term. That's okay. No short-term speculation, gambling. And 4th, no illicit connections with the opposite gender. Only marriage. Okay, so these are the 4 starting points of being a good person. So these are the don'ts. Don'ts of being and if you don't do these things, you can start coming towards being a good person. Now in bhakti, what else? Now there may be people who do this. I had a very good friend who is a Mormon Christian, or at least he follows the aspects. Other than meat eating, they do all the 3 very rigidly. They say, yes, these are, we know, drinking, no gambling, no all these, they follow that very rigidly. So, these principles are a little bit more universal. Then bhakti, a very, very nice list is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is a very famous verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Madhya Lila, chapter 22, verse number 128. 128 is a nice number for all the software engineers. 128 is, 1 followed by 7 zeros in binary. So it's easy to remember. Where is that? I think it is 128. Yes, 128. So this verse tells what is bhakti. If you just want the do's, what is bhakti? Sadhu Sangha, Nama Kirtana, Bhagavat Shravana, Mathura Vas, Shri Murtira Shraddhaya Sevana. 128. And then 129. Sakala Sadhana Shreshtha Ei Pancha Anga, Krishna prema janmaya ei panchera alpasanga. So let me just explain quickly what it means. There are 5 very prominent ways of doing bhakti. Any one is okay. Sadhu sanga, associating with devotees. Nama kirtana, that is simple, doing kirtan of name of Bhagawan. Bhagavat shravana, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. Mathuravas, living in a holy dham. And Shri Murtira Shraddhaya Sevana, having a deity of the Lord and with Shraddha, not as a ritual, with love, doing seva of a Murti of Bhagavan. And in the next verse, this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu telling all this to Sanatana Goswami. Sakala sadhana shrestha ei pancha anga. Among all the angas, all the limbs, anga means limbs or parts of sadhana, these are the ei pancha are shrestha. These 5 are best. Krishna prema janmaya. If you do these, ei panchera alpa sanga, with these 5, if you do alpa, little bit of these, any of these 5, Krishna prema janmaya, the love for Krishna will arise in your heart. This is bhakti. So be becoming a good person, and by doing bhakti, you can become a bhakta. Are you following? Giving a very simple formula. Cannot be an evil or a sinful person, being a good person and doing bhakti in this way. So you can note down this verse, these 5 things with Shraddha. If you do, that will make you a bhakta. And when you are a bhakta, you can understand God. So remember, we started this discussion by how inconceivable Bhagawan is, and we cannot understand Bhagawan with our strength. Are you following? But we can understand through bhakti, when God reveals himself to the bhakta. How to do bhakti? Like this. Clear? At least little bit it is clear. May not be all the details, may be too much to absorb in 1 hour. But some, it is little bit clear, right? All right. So this one, all this we covered. So let us, and if you have any questions, you can raise your hands in the Zoom or put it in the chat. In the meantime, I will quickly go to the purport of Srila Prabhupada, the summary of the purport. But we have covered all the main points of the purport already. And those who are doing Bhakti Shastri, please put your actual name. Please put your actual name in the Zoom, so that I can mark the attendance. Don't forget. Where is share? All right, so mantra 4. So let us look at the summary of Srila Prabhupada's purport. It has 7 paragraphs. So in first para, Srila Prabhupada is saying that it is not possible to know God with mental speculation. We covered that. He can be known only by his mercy and through his devotees, because he has already revealed himself to them, and they will pass on that knowledge to us. Following? Then he says that the Lord is present everywhere. So like somebody said, how can he be fixed and running at a very fast speed? So the immediate answer was, maybe he's present everywhere. So that is actually the correct understanding. And Srila Prabhupada explains how the Lord is present everywhere, because he has 3 energies, which is known as Antaranga, Tatastha, and Bahiranga. These are the 3 energies of Bhagavan: internal, marginal, and external. Antaranga is the internal energy of Bhagavan, which is manifested as the spiritual world, all the Vaikuntha planets. They are the internal energy of Bhagavan. We will go to the external energy of Bhagavan, which is the material world, this samsara, that is Bahiranga Shakti. And then all the living entities are in the material world. We are the marginal energy, the Tatastha Shakti of Bhagavan. So I think somewhere else it is covered here. Yes, this one, 5th para, he will say that we are all tiny parts of Bhagavan. Why are we? And this is the achintya, bheda and abheda, which means we are different and same. Different in quantity, but same in quality. All right. Just like, and 3 examples are given in the scriptures through which you can understand this. Just like a drop of water is same in quality, but different in quantity with the entire ocean. Can you understand the difference? Just a drop of water and the whole ocean, quality is the same. Quantity is just immensely different. In that way, our soul is also spiritual. Bhagavan is also spiritual, but Bhagavan is unlimited. We are tiny, limited parts. All right. Another example is, so here the example is given. Another example is, if there is a frog living in a well, small well, okay, or a small pond, and you ask the frog to imagine the size of the ocean, the frog will say, yeah, I can imagine. I'm living in my well. Frog must, the ocean must be 10 times the well. You say, no, it's not 10 times, even bigger. Okay, it must be as big as a lake. No, it's even bigger. It might be as big as 10 times the lake. No, it's even bigger. So frog says, no, you are just joking. I give up. So we are like that. If we try to understand by our own strength, Bhagavan is way bigger than our understanding. The other 2 examples are like a spark of fire and a forest fire. Quality is the same, quantity is different. Or a small particle of gold compared to the entire gold mine. The quality is the same, quantity is different. So that is the difference between Tatastha Shakti and his entire, the full essence of Bhagavan. We are the same in quality, but different in quantity. So the Lord is present everywhere via his energies. We just saw that in the material world as his Bahiranga Shakti, in the spiritual world as his Antaranga Shakti. We are also parts and parcel, tiny parts and parcel of Lord. So he is everywhere. But we should not think that this energy is the same as Bhagavan. Bhagavan is somebody impersonal. This verse is also mentioning, or it will start, the Īśopaniṣad will start telling how Bhagavan is a person. Because when he is sitting or he is running, these things are valid for a person, isn't it? Can you say this pen is sitting and running? Does it make sense? Does it make sense to give the quality of sitting or running to a pen or any other impersonal object? It makes sense to talk about running and sitting only for a person. So we are getting the hint from the Īśopaniṣad that Bhagavan is a person, and this will carry on to build throughout the Īśopaniṣad. So the Bhagavan is a person. He is not impersonal. So that is what is explained in the 4th paragraph. And the only way to know the Lord is by following the Shastra, which has been written by the Acharyas to whom the Lord has revealed himself. So we should not think that we can know God by our mental speculation, otherwise we will fail. So how to know God? Srila Prabhupada is explaining that if we live by the Ishavasya principle, which is the starting point of bhakti, The starting point of bhakti is to realize everything belongs to God. Nothing is mine. Okay, that is the Ishavasya principle. To first acknowledge the supremacy of Bhagawan is the first principle of bhakti. Then one can revive his original consciousness and can know God. Then one can make further progress in bhakti and can know God. So last para, Srila Prabhupada says that Lord can only be known through submissive service, which is also called devotional service. To execute his will, to do his work, that is all bhakti. And Srila Prabhupada says Bhagavad Gita has all the details about it, which is correct. Bhagavad Gita has all the details about how to do bhakti. So this is the summary of Srila Prabhupada's purport. So we will stop here the class. There's something on the chat. Anybody has any questions or comments? Yes, so there are nice comments. Asuras are also known to be bhaktas of some kind. How so? No, asuras are not bhaktas. Now, some asuras are bhaktas, like Prahalad, Bali Maharaj, Vritrasura. There are many examples of.
Even Ravan, sir.
No, Ravan cannot be called a bhakta. No, that is wrong understanding. We can have offline discussion about it.
Okay.
Okay. Now, all living entities are parts and parcel of Bhagavan. That is true. Even the demons are jivas who are tatastha sakti, who are just another jiva. But a jiva, I think we were discussing in this class or some other class, everybody has a free will. A jiva has free will. So yes, there can be a part and parcel, an amsha of Bhagavan, which is all jivas, but their free will, through their free will, they think that I am an enemy of Bhagavan. I need to destroy Bhagavan. I need to kill Bhagavan. That is Ravana mentality. They want the property of Bhagavan without Bhagavan. So Ravana went for Sita, who is none other than Mother Lakshmi. Everybody wants Lakshmi without Rama, without Narayana. Okay. So everybody, that is Ravana mentality. You want Sita, but not Ram. And then Ram will come and destroy. Okay, you will get destroyed. So no, demons being bhaktas is not the right understanding. And then we can further go into the discussion of Jaya and Vijaya who fell down from spiritual world and all that. That is a more deeper discussion to be had, not possible in few minutes. But it is a completely incorrect understanding that these demons like Hiranyakashipu also is, one of the lives of Jaya and Vijaya. Ravan and Kumbhakarna is another. So Jarasandha and Shishupal is third one. So like that, but they does not mean they are doing bhakti. One more question. Can evil people do bhakti through mercy of exalted Vaishnavas without being good first? Yes. Yeah, you have already given example of Valmiki. And there is another example of Mrigrari hunter in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Exact same example as Valmiki Muni. Also through Narada Muni's mercy, they became great devotees. So that is like hitting the jackpot. Okay, don't aim for that. How many of you play lottery here? If you have studied high school mathematics, you will understand that it is a very useless way of trying to become rich. The odds are so much against you. Okay. They say that some mathematician said that if you're standing in the middle of a road and put your hands out like this, and $10,000 will fall in your hands from the sky, that is more probable than winning the lottery. It is so, the odds are so much against if you do the probability calculation. So that is like expecting, oh, I'll be a sinful person. Narad Muni will somehow come and I will become a devotee. Now it has happened in those cases, in case of Valmiki Muni. So the learning is not to wait for Narada Muni to come and till then continue sinful life. That should not be the learning. The learning should be to go find out the devotees. Where is Narada Muni? Where are the other devotees? Go try to associate with them. And at the same time, try to become a devotee yourself. That is the takeaway from that example of Valmiki Rishi. But yes, it is certainly possible. And these examples are there. Any other questions? Anjana Mataji, you had a hand up.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I mean, I just wanted to say a few things. First of all, I mean, there is nothing by chance. I mean, even if we talk about Valmiki ji,
Yes.
I mean, he must have done tapasya or devotion in his previous, lives. So nothing is by chance. They have done something to get that mercy. I mean, I feel that way. Maybe I'm wrong or maybe I'm doing speculation.
Yeah.
But
So
but
mercy,
I feel that
mercy is not by our karma. Mercy is mercy. It is simply the mercy of, it is that part you cannot say is by chance, but it is the merciful nature of devotees who are going everywhere. They are traveling so much, like Srila Prabhupada circled the world 14 times in 11 years. They are trying to reduce that chance. They are trying to go everywhere so that the chance of us coming in contact with devotees is as lowered, as reduced as possible. They keep going. We keep rejecting them. So nothing that we have done deserves us to come in contact with pure devotees. So in that sense, it is chance. That part is definitely chance. But that chance is coming from that coincidence or that random occurrence that we come in contact with pure devotees is random. And it is the mercy of the devotees, because they want themselves to come in contact with all possible types of jivas. That is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, chant the names of the Lord loudly. Even the insects, if you take the name of the Lord loudly, even the insects will hear those sound vibrations. Even the cats and dogs will hear. There is no karma, there is no destiny that this cat or this dog was standing here and I was saying Krishna at that time. Therefore, those who have faith in Krishna should loudly take Krishna's name wherever possible. And whichever animals even, and humans and everybody and ourselves will hear the name and get the blessing. All right, Mataji?
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to mention was about the scriptures. I mean, we all depend on the translation of the scriptures. Hardly, I would say, maybe you or some of us might have a knowledge of Sanskrit or can actually understand the scriptures. So we depend on the mercies of the acharyas and the gurus. So, I mean, for example, Bhagavad Gita as it is. Why it's called as it is there's so much of speculation which is done on the scriptures and is exposed to the people around. So, I mean, it becomes our responsibility to make sure that whatever scripture translation we are picking up is pure and is done by a pure devotee.
That is very true. Yet at the same time, for example, the basic scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, many verses is very hard to misinterpret. They are so straightforward that it is hard to misinterpret. Like 2 + 2 = 4. Anybody who has done elementary math can understand that. Some complicated proofs, it may take months and months to review the correctness of a proof. Like Andrew Wiles. What was the big millennium problem he solved? I forget. The Fermat's last theorem. Yes. So he did like his life's work. It was some 400-page paper he wrote. And it took 2 years for some other people to review that it is correct. So yes, there are some complicated portions in the scriptures, which is hard for us to understand. And we have to depend on Acharya's explanations and commentaries to understand it correctly. But there are many, many, many simple verses in the scriptures as well, which are very, very hard to misinterpret. You have to really try hard to twist it around. It is so straightforward. Like, how can you twist 2 + 2 = 4 to make it 5? very hard. So when Bhagavan Krishna, for example, says in Bhagavad Gita, aham, what is the 10.8? Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Everything comes from me. So what is the other meaning of aham sarvasya prabhavo? Very straightforward. Or, so many other verses. Mad chittaha mad gataha prana bodhayantaha parasparam. Keeping me in their mind. Mad chittaha mad gataha prana. So there are simple verses. And if we alone follow the simple verses, our lives will be perfect. Leave out all the complex ones for the great Gyanis. Let us just focus on the simple ones. That itself is enough for us to make spiritual progress. So yes, Mataji, you are correct. For the complex ones, we must depend on acharyas, the interpretations, and pure devotees. Very important. But those who know little bit Sanskrit should have no problem in understanding the essence just from many of the verses, which are simple. Bhagavan wants us to understand Bhagavad Gita. So why will he overcomplicate it? He tells us, if you want to teach your child something, you will try to explain it in simple language. Why will you overcomplicate? So similarly, Bhagavan Krishna has presented Bhagavad Gita. Many verses are very simple. The most important ones are the ones which are more simple. We were just discussing this yesterday in Bhagavad Gita class, 12.5, the whole discussion of Vyakta and Avyakta. Bhagavan says those who are following this Avyakta, it is Tesham Klesho Adhikataras Klesham. They have a hard time to even understand because it's very complex. And then in the next verse, he says, Aham Sulabha Partha for the Bhakta. I'm easily attainable for the devotees. All right, so those are my comments on your question, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Anything else? Yes, Prabhuji, you had a question.
So, in the verse it says Tasmin, right, which is in him. I don't see that in translation.
You don't see that in translation? Well, Srila Prabhupada is giving an overall translation.
But in the translation, I don't see that Tasmin being referred to.
Okay, so let's go there. I took all my Tasmin means. So you may not see it in the translation because he's giving a full English sentence, but it is definitely there in the word by word meaning. So Tasmin, in him, right there.
Yeah, but in the translation, I don't see that reference to that.
So in his abode, he says, and cannot approach him. Translation is a full English sentence. Okay. But Srila Prabhupada is the one that's writing the translation, and he's the one who is writing the word by word. So, yeah. Okay. So we will stop here if there are no more questions or comments. All right. Yeah. So we ended up using up the whole time in 4 only. So next week we will cover 5. All right. Mantra 5. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
All right. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.